Lullaby of the Valley. Children's book by Tuula Pere. Summary. Far away in a distant mountain valley are two villages where people have lived peacefully side by side for centuries, sharing their joys and sorrows. But life in the valley changes completely when doubt and distrust creep in, and young men embark on a revenge mission. Fear spreads among the elderly, women, and children. Grandma Kaina, a wise and courageous woman, sets out on a dangerous journey to a spring located between the villages. The only thing that will calm down the outbreak of hate is the gentle weapon of grandmothers. Pages 2 and 3. Far away in a distant mountain valley, a family was getting ready to turn in for the night. Kaina sat by her grandchildren's bed, gently stroking their heads. She was humming a lullaby, the same song she used to sing to her son when he was a child. A caravan moves slowly under a starry sky. An eagle in the valley soars above, so high. A little child falls asleep before the night. Her mother smiles and turns down the light. Amira, the children's mother, looked out of the window. All she could see in the darkness was light coming from the other houses. If only he would come back, the young mother sighed. Grandmother Kaina knew whom she was talking about. Pages 4 and 5. Everything had changed in the distant mountain valley when its only two villages became enemies. Young men had risen up against each other and taken to the mountains to battle. Kaina's son Karam had joined the troops. One of the villages sat high on the hillside where villagers' goats grazed. Closer to lowland, the other village grew grain in rugged fields spread along the valley. With the men away, the mothers and grandparents tried to look after their families the best they could. Never in my life could I have imagined something like this, Grandma Kaina sighed. Our villages have always lived in peace, but now the seeds of hate are growing. Pages 6 and 7. Once the children had fallen asleep, Kaina took her steaming cup of tea and sat by the window. She wrapped her cold fingers tightly around it to warm them. There was not much firewood left. Nobody wanted to leave the village to fetch it. The grandmother wondered how all this evil had come about. That was a subject of debate in the villages, and accusations flew back and forth. "You've taken our cattle," the upland people claimed. "You've fed your goats with grain from our fields," the lowland people snapped back. The dispute had grown worse bit by bit. One day at the market, a fight broke out among men from the different villages. Women and children had withdrawn to the safety of their homes. Pages 8 and 9. Kaina had lived in the valley all her life, as had many generations before her. She had many close friends in the neighboring village up on the hill. Now they couldn't see each other. In a faraway corner of the world like this, what's the use of stirring up hate against anyone? Kaina said to Amira, who was finishing her kitchen chores. "I'm sure it's no use anywhere," the young mother agreed. "Children should have a safe home to live in." Kaina nodded and thought about life in the villages. In earlier days, nobody had minded that each village had its own customs and language. People understood each other well. They were brought together by the valley, where the joys and sorrows of big families were very much alike. What matters most is that all the children have enough food to eat and warm clothes to wear, Grandma Kaina said. That's the most important lesson to learn in life. Pages 10 and 11. The villages were located far from the big cities along an ancient caravan route. Little by little, better routes had been discovered, though, and people traveled elsewhere. The river running along the bottom of the valley had dried out. All that was left was a riverbed filled with dry sand and fragments of rocks. Remote as they were, the villages had lived sparingly but peacefully for many centuries. Now, spreading like poison, evil thoughts had invaded the villages. Fights dispelled the joys they used to share. Doubt took over people's minds. When a storm knocked over a fence in the upland village, people believed that the lowland folk were behind it. When the well in the lowland village broke down, people there were convinced that someone from the hillside had damaged it. Pages 12 and 13. Fear started to spread among the villagers. Mothers did not allow children to go out to play far from home. At sunset, people locked their doors and covered the windows with thick cloths. "How can this be?" Grandma Kaina said one evening. "We've been inside day after day." "When can we go to the market again in the uplands? Or get fresh water from the spring?" The children kept asking impatiently. "Soon we may not let you go out at all," their mother sighed. "If only your father were here." Pages 14 and 15. Grandma Kaina had lived a long life. In all her years, she had had plenty of time to learn the most important things in life. She'd tried to pass on these lessons to children, especially her own son. "My dear son Karam has forgotten everything I taught him about what truly matters," Kaina said sadly. "He's out there somewhere with other angry young men, fighting against our neighbors." "But he wants to take care of us," Amira defended her husband. "It's very hard to do good with a gun in your hand," Kaina insisted. "There are far better tools for taking care of one's family." Amira went back to her chores while her children played indoors close to her. Even though it was already getting dark, Kaina wanted to go outside. Pages 16 and 17. With a lantern in hand, Kaina took a familiar path that led away from the village. She wanted to pay a visit to the spring bubbling up at the bottom of the valley, halfway between the two villages. The sun had set some time ago. The air had grown colder. In the darkness, only the mountain tops could be seen, silhouetted against the starry sky. Somewhere out there was Karam. With a heavy heart, the woman made her way to the spring and sat on a stone with her bucket. She put down the lantern, sheltered it from the wind, and then wrapped the shawl more tightly around herself. "I wish Karam were here with me," she whispered to herself, stroking her shawl. "The same way he used to be every night when he was a little boy." She started humming, rocking herself slowly from side to side. Then she sang in a trembling voice. "Hush, little child, the night is falling. Hear, little child, the winds start calling. They take you to dreamland, your mother too. She's holding your hand and comes with you." Pages 18 and 19. Kaina could hear steps approaching from the hillside. She turned to see who it was, but weary of being afraid, she kept on singing. "It's just me, your friend Siren," a woman's voice said in the darkness. "Come and sit next to me," Kaina said, delighted. "It's been too long since we last saw each other." "I know that tune," Saran said, "but we sing it with different words in my village." Before long, sitting side by the spring, the two old women were singing the same lullaby with different words. At first, they sang quietly and with caution, but little by little, their voices grew stronger. The lullaby's verses echoed in the night in both languages. Singing together, the aged mothers poured new life into the old song. Pages 20 and 21. The lullaby's echo carried through the mountains, traveling higher and higher, eventually reaching the camps where the angry young men stayed. Some of the men were already asleep, but many were still twisting and turning restlessly on their hard sleeping pads. "What do you know?" "That's one fearless singer out there," a tired young man exclaimed. "It sounds like it's someone from my home village." "Wait, listen. I think there are two singers," another soldier said. "Some of the verses are in the upland language." Karam started listening. He knew the lullaby very well. Tears filled his eyes, and he had to get up. "I'll go and have a look," Karam said. "No need to come with me. I'll be fine. It's just two harmless old women." Pages 22 and 23. Karam drew silently closer to the singers. After a while, it dawned on him. One of the voices belonged to his own mother. It was the same voice he had listened to as a child every night, in the safety of his mother's arms. It was such a long time ago. Now Karam was a soldier, and he carried a gun. The song made him put it down and hide it under a rock next to the path. He didn't want to meet his mother and the other singer with a gun in his hand. Karam quickened his pace. "Mother, is that really you?" the young man asked as he approached the spring. "My son, what took you so long?" Kaina held her son's face in her hands, kissing his cheeks. "What have you become?" Pages 24 and 25. Holding the lantern up, the mother studied her son. Karam looked exhausted, and angry furrows had appeared on his forehead. "Let me smooth that frown on your face," Kaina said gently. "Come and sit here with me. We are not in a hurry." Karam was a tired man. He sat down next to his mother and leaned his head on her shoulder. Kaina wrapped her arm determinedly around her son's shoulders and laid his head down on her knee. Her heart full of love, Kaina sang the familiar lullaby to her adult son, just like years ago. Karam started breathing more peacefully and eventually fell asleep. Pages 26 and 27. Kaina and Saran sang the lullaby all through the night till the break of dawn. By morning, their voices had become a mere whisper in the cold. Then Saran said goodbye to her friend and headed back to her village. But the lullaby carried on as an echo along the mountain slopes. Traveling with the wind, it eventually reached the ears of all the angry young men. And it was not any old tune. It was the song of mothers, coming straight from their hearts and touching the hearts of everyone who heard it. Hearing the song, the soldiers of both villages remembered their homes and families. Pages 28 and 29. When Karam finally woke up at his mother's side, the hatred in his heart had melted away. The young man looked around in amazement. It was as if a nightmare had come to an end. "I have a lot to do," Karam said. "I will go back to my friends in the camp. I need to talk to them about something important." "You will return home soon, won't you?" Kaina asked anxiously. "Your children and your wife, Amira, miss you terribly." "I will, but first I have to go to the other men. I will make them see that our place is in our village with our families." The lullaby of the villages never went silent. At times, the song faded into the background. At other times, it grew louder. When the voices of the older mothers faded away, new mothers and fathers continued to sing it to their own children in their peaceful home valley. You have listened. Lullaby of the Valley, a children's book by Dr. Tuula Pere, published by Wickwick, read aloud by Jessica, Virtual Voices of Wickwick Labs.